In the fabled land of Northern California, nestled in the Valley of Sacramento, two friends begin a journey to enlighten the world about their experience living life as a Xennial. But what is a Xennial, you may ask? If you wish to know, then follow them on their adventures.
Welcome to the Xennial Chronicles. This is James.
This is Mike.
And of course, it's that time of year. It's that time of year that I used to look forward to. Why do I say that, right? Why is this time of year any different than any other? Do you know?
Daylight savings time completely fucks your sleep schedule up.
Fuck that shit. Right out the gate, you have to bring that up. And I have to start cussing immediately. God damn it, I hate daylight savings time. I hate it so damn much.
Right? I'm a huge fan of not having it.
Well, yeah, I'm just a huge fan of not waking up when it's still dark.
I have awoken a monster immediately. This is great.
I can talk about how this is a throwback to a stupider era in America. And like, especially this is America that does it. And we're the only country that does it. There's even some areas of America that are like, nah, we're done with this. And it's areas of America that's like, really? You're done with that? There's a lot of things that you're not done with that you're holding on to, but you're done with the whole time change thing. Great. I'm looking at you, Arizona. But yeah, it needs to be done with. We need to not do this anymore. It's so stressful.
I'll at least respect Arizona's lack of participation in it.
I mean, that's about the only thing you can respect Arizona for, so go at it. But yeah, no, that's not what I was alluding to. I also wasn't alluding to the fact that I didn't mention it the last podcast, even though the last podcast came out around the right time for it. Because I was doing it on purpose to kind of be an ass, but I explained that to you.
Right.
It's not because this is, this time of year is around the time of your birthday, which did happen between last time we talked and now. I'm not going to say which day. Some people already know it, but it did happen.
It did.
It's also not because I have two children that have birthdays within this month. One of them just happened this week. One of them will be near the end of the month. And yes, that's my youngest child actually turned 16 this week, which is just, I mean, I have an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old and technically another 16-year-old, but that's a whole nother story. That one will be a different age in a few more days, as it were. But yeah, so that's not what I look forward to. I mean, I love my kids and I love their birthdays. It's nice to be able to have those moments of cake, and I have children that actually genuinely love the presents that we get them, so that's always good. And it's not your birthday because I love you too, man, but I'm not waiting around for March for your birthday. I'm also not waiting around for St. Patrick's Day, even though it is the one day I do corned beef and cabbage. I'm not waiting around for the day after St. Patrick's Day, when apparently I was too damn tired to remember that we were in March and decided to post a Facebook post with my corned beef and cabbage and red potato hash with 2 fried eggs on top of it. Because that's my tradition the day after St. Patrick's Day. And apparently I decided to post then that this is how you do it on February 18th as opposed to March 18th. Because I was awake enough to cook my food and to eat my food, but apparently I wasn't awake enough to know what month I'm in. But I do look forward to this time of year. And there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is, for many, many years, I was a part of that group of people that looked forward to this time of year because it was basically the time of year where my household would get ahead financially. Just like all the retail places look forward to Black Friday, and basically everything from Black Friday until the end of the year as their time to make all their money, because up until then they don't make the money that they need to survive. Right. That's where the retail establishment makes its money. That's the same thing that happens during February and March for, I would say, 80% of Americans.
Yeah.
And the reason for this is this is usually the time of year everybody gets their tax returns.
Yes.
Now, I've not gotten a tax return in a couple of years due to the way that finances end up working. It's a little weird. But I've always been looking forward to this time of year. It's just kind of ingrained into me. Not from when I was a kid, because my parents they were in that quasi weird range where they made just enough to not have to pay taxes, but not enough to where they got any money back. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yes.
That weird range.
Yes.
I've always been in the range of I'm poor as shit, so I always got money back in taxes. So it was all like, woohoo, I finally have some money, let's go do things. And it would be, all right, what's broken in the house that I now have to replace? So I got to buy a new one of those. We haven't had one of those in 6 months because I haven't been able to afford it. We got to buy a new one of those. And then what do the kids need? Okay, we need 3 of those and 3 of those. And my kids used to be very, very hard on DVD players. And yes, my kids did have VHS players, only because I had more than enough VHS tapes to go around. And they still sold VHS players in Walmart at that time. In fact, they used to sell VHS and DVD combos. You know, one big machine with both things. And I still have one of those, by the way.
Man, you can still find those on eBay. I think actually Amazon, you can still find them like newly made. They still make them.
I have one of those. The one I have, in fact, you can put a VHS tape in it, and you can actually record it to a DVD. You can burn it onto a DVD with the one I have. I don't know how to do it. I've never done it, but I know it can do it.
Whoa, because I've heard of some VHS tapes having they have a safeguard. Like I remember back in the day, it was this early version of like copy protection. I don't know how it worked with VHS tapes, but it worked. There was a video that we used to have 2 VCRs stacked on top of each other, right? One VCR would be hooked into the other VCR so you could copy your rentals. Everybody did this shit. Don't lie. Everybody did it. I'm saying it right now. Okay.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I didn't growing up, but that's because there was literally only one VCR in the house when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And my dad was just barely technologically savvy enough to set the timer to record the John Wayne movie Hondo when that came. That showed on like a Sunday afternoon or whatever. On
like on Fox,
Turner Classic Movies, or something like that. Yeah, and so he actually it probably wasn't even that back then. It was probably TBS or something back then.
Oh
but he would set he had it. He was able to program the time in to record, and it was showing on like I say, like a Sunday afternoon or something. He wasn't going to be able to watch it for sure or be at home for it. So he was able to set the record time for it. That's about as far technologically advanced as he got with the VCR. And then to basically, he wasn't a yelling type, but definitely the stern, you better be careful. That's the only VCR we have, and we're not getting another VCR.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to, as I would watch the tapes of the stuff that he recorded, I think I wore out. I'm pretty sure I wore out the VHS that he had recorded of one of my all-time favorite movies. I know that for the one summer that I watched it every single day and annoyed my brothers with it. By the time the summer was over, the first 5 minutes of the movie was so destroyed I barely remember it. Or I didn't remember it until I watched because it's like you couldn't see enough of it.
Right.
I had to watch when I watched the movie as an adult on DVD. I was like, oh damn, I don't remember all of this stuff happening. I don't remember all of the chase sequence. I only remember pieces of the chase sequence because some of it was so distorted on that old VHS tape. I remember, watching Return of the Jedi and it cutting off right as the music hit and the credits rolled. It cut off and it went into the movie Pale Rider, because that's what my dad had done with that. He'd recorded Return of the Jedi and then recorded Pale Rider right after it. By the way, that other movie, the one that I watched every single day for a single summer and made my brothers angry, Goonies. For the longest time, Goonies was my favorite movie. And the whole escape from prison and chase sequence in the beginning of it, half of that I didn't see regularly as a kid because that part of the tape was ruined. And so as I'm watching, I'm like, wow, there's a lot more to this. I mean, I remember Chunk being in the pizza place and smashing the pizza and the soda up against the glass and whatnot. I remember that. And I kind of remember they broke out of prison, but I don't remember how that all happened. Watching is like, oh, okay, that's pretty elaborate. That's not bad. All right. But yeah, it's just most of it was destroyed because the tape had been watched so many times. I was waiting. There's a couple other points in the movie where I was waiting for it to, get all fuzzy for a moment because again, that's what I was used to, and it doesn't. I'm like, oh, right, DVD, James. These things actually work, whereas the VHS tape, you ruined it. You watched it too much. But no, it was that there was a point in time where every year when we'd come into the the tax return season, because there's tax season for people who make money, the
Right.
middle class, the upper middle class, the wealthier class. They worry about tax season, but for all the poor people, we worry about tax return season.
Yes.
And what you worry about is when you get your tax return, because you don't necessarily you want to get it before the other members of your family, so you can go out and get the cool stuff before they do, all the upgraded stuff, so that you don't feel like you're jumping on the bandwagon and following them. You don't feel like, oh, I saw that you got the mixer, so I had to get a mixer, even though you've been thinking about the same mixer, that KitchenAid mixer, for 6 months or whatever. You've been wanting that thing.
Yeah.
If your friend or your family goes and gets it, you feel like, oh, great, they'll see I got it and they'll think I'm copying them or something. So you want to get it first, but then you also and you want to be able to get in and grab the stuff you need to get. Pay, hopefully, if you're fiscally responsible, which yes, poor people can still be fiscally responsible. It's the economy and the way that jobs work that oftentimes makes it so that people still are in poverty. It's not necessarily their poor decisions. Just want to say that.
Right.
But normally if you're fiscally responsible, you pay off your bills with it that you maybe are behind with, do the things that you need to, but more likely than not, something is broken. You have to do your vehicle repairs. Always. Your car breaks like 3 weeks before you get your tax return. You got to do the vehicle repairs. You got to replace all the stuff. And you also want to be able to make sure you get it at a time where you don't have to navigate the stores with everybody else when they got their tax returns. And it's funny because you can watch when it happens. If you know what you're looking for, if you're kind of used to that rhythm of things, watch it in the end of February, all through the month of March. That's the time to go sit at a Walmart and do some people watching, because you'll see people that will have carts filled with electronics and all these other things, because that's the only time they can buy that stuff. It's the only time they can afford to get the pleasure items, the big items, the expensive items that they use on a regular basis. But when they break, you really can't afford to replace them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Every year I was buying a brand new DVD VCR combo because my kids, they were pretty rough on those things. And by the end of the year, if it wasn't broken, I knew that within a week or two of getting the tax money, the tax return, they would be broken, because I would have, not bought one and spent the money elsewhere. And Murphy's Law, it's going to happen. They're going to break. So every year I'd be buying a new one for each of them, knowing that I was going to have to. I know some people will think that was indulgent, but hey, that's a big outlet for my kids, is being able to watch movies and videos, because it's a big outlet for me. So I make sure that they have the capability to do that. Well, this last week was, for many, many Americans, tax week, in the sense that everybody got their stimulus. And I did not leave the house this week, except I had a little errand I had to run this morning. But otherwise, I didn't leave the house. I left that up to my wife, because we have learned, and this may surprise you, actually. This may surprise you from all the times that you've spent around the both of us,
Mm-hmm.
although it may not, because you've seen both sides of both of us,
Mm-hmm.
that my wife has become the much better person at dealing with people in public. She is calmer, more level-headed, and doesn't nearly get as frustrated and angry as I do around people in public anymore.
That is understandable.
Maybe it's because I've been home much more than I ever have in the past.
Right.
And she's been the one, she's wanted to go out to do shopping because she had to be home. She had about a 3-year span where she was home all the time.
Right.
And so now she's kind of wanting to be out more. But again, I would have thought years ago I was kind of the more calm and level-headed of the two of us, and she was the one that you had to worry about kind of ripping somebody's head off and playing soccer with it, back in the past.
Yeah.
Very big role reversal. I mean, I have to stop myself from screaming at people in grocery stores now because they just frustrate me so much. So very much. But she decided to partially brave the wilds of stimulus shopping day, because a lot of people there's a large group of Americans that of course got their stimulus last Wednesday.
Yes.
And she mainly set up pickup orders, which is what she's been doing for a lot of the grocery orders.
Mm-hmm.
We actually find that setting up the pickup orders, you order your stuff ahead of time, you schedule the time to go pick them up, you drive up to the pickup spot, they put the shit in your trunk, you come home. You find out that they missed some stuff or they replaced some stuff because they're dumb and don't know how to shop, but it's better than dealing with the people in the store sometimes.
Right.
So we've been doing a lot of this for certain stores. Some stores you have to go in. Other ones, you can get some avoidance. Well, she had a pickup order that she was able to pick up that day, but she had to physically go into one of the stores. And it was the standard madhouse.
Of course.
Of just craziness. And I can say, like I said, it's been a couple of years now that due to our financial situation, we haven't been looking towards this time of year for tax return. Like I said, it's still there in the back of my mind, but it's not something we're actively looking towards because we don't have it. We don't get the huge multi-$1,000 influx of money that happened in our previous financial engagement. But the upside is we're doing well enough on a regular basis that we don't have to necessarily have that happen. And getting the opportunity to see a slice of that again, it's scary to think that this is the kind of the way that the economy works. And it's so regular for so many people that when the influx of money comes in, you have to have all these things that you have to take care of because otherwise you don't have the opportunity to. Now, I'll admit, this year we had a few things we had to take care of because this year's been kind of hard for everybody.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of a funny thing, but it's still the time of year that I think that new things can be reborn. Spring is happening, right? Isn't today the first day of spring, the day we're doing this? So it's the time that things can be reborn.
We are, well, let's see, we're recording this on the 20th. I was never sure if it was the 20th or the 21st, and I don't know why.
It depends on the year.
Okay.
I think this year it's the 20th.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to look that up now.
It has to do with lunar cycles and whatnot. Oh. But anyway, so actually, technically, it has to do with the where the Earth is in its rotation around the sun.
You are correct. You are correct. It is today, the 20th. Yes.
Yeah, it has to do with when it's in rotation around the sun because at the vernal equinox, which is what today should be, it's an equal amount of daytime as nighttime, and the way that the reason for that is the Earth has an axial tilt of like 23 degrees or something like that.
Yeah.
So where it is in its circuit around the sun, the tilt is accounted for by the orbit. If that makes sense.
I think so.
Yeah, there's basically when you're at in the northern hemisphere, when you're at winter solstice, December 20th, December 21st, it's where the point in our orbit where the tilt is the north pole tilt, because it that would be tilting through the vertical axis of the planet. The northern tilt is pointed away from the sun. Now that doesn't mean that we're further away from the sun. We're actually furthest away from the sun. Sometime in like the middle of January, we're actually the furthest away from the sun. No explanation as to why that is.
I thought we were far. I remember now. This is a grade school thing, and this was fucking 20, 30 years ago that I heard this. So I'm not entirely sure if it still holds true, but I thought I remembered that the Earth is farther away from the sun in the summer because
I don't think so.
It's like the amount of light that reaches the Earth is what causes all of the warmth, rather than like it's the amount of time that you're exposed to the light, not the distance you are away from the sun.
Well,
I thought it was something like that.
Yes, that is true. But
Which is why
I'm
in
getting
winter
to
the
that.
days are shorter
No,
because you're closer because the axis of
you're not any closer.
suns.
You're not any closer.
Oh,
No, and that would actually be wrong. If you're closer, you'd get more light and more heat. That's why Venus has a runaway greenhouse effect, and why Mercury is basically one half of it is a just melty all the time. The other half of it is stone cold. That's because it's tidally locked to the
right.
Mercury is tidally locked to the sun, so it actually doesn't rotate on its axis. It
Not
has one
in
side
relation
locked
to the sun. Yeah, it's locked to the sun.
It orbits the sun, but it doesn't rotate on its axis.
Right.
So one side is tidally locked to the sun at all times. No, with the as I'm saying, the Earth, like I say, it's sometime in January that it's actually the furthest away, but that has no effect on the amount of the difference in distance has no effect on the amount of light and heat that we receive. Like I said, what happens is if you were to look at the Earth and you think of it as perfectly straight North Pole, South Pole, straight up and down, right? Technically, it's actually tilted, like I say, about 25 degrees on its axis. So what happens is when the top of that axis tilt is pointing away from the sun.
Okay,
that's when we have winter time.
Yes,
because it's the sun is more focused towards the bottom.
That would make sense because the southern hemisphere experiences summer at that time. Is that not correct?
Correct. And then so so that's at spot 0, right? Because we're looking at like 360 degrees is in a circle. So that's what we're looking at is the rough orbit. Technically it's more of an elliptical orbit, but only minorly. We can look at this circular. So that's at 0 degrees, right? When it goes around to 90 degrees, that would be 1/4 of the way around the 360 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we are at that today. We are at the 90-degree point where the thing is the tilt always points in the same direction. So if you can imagine a basketball, right? Sitting on your table.
Yes.
Then imagine that you have a golf ball that you have tilted, right? And it's tilted on a pole that always points to the same spot in your room. All that point that you have a little like nail coming out the top that's at that 25-degree tilt. That always points to the same spot in your room. That never changes.
Right.
So as that's pointing, you're when you're at the 0 position at winter solstice, let's say, that's pointing, to the, let's say the whatever side of the room you've chosen, it's still pointing to that side. Mm-hmm. As you're moving around, that nail still points in the same place. So when you get to the point that you're at the 90-degree, instead of hitting the sun being at the one side of on the side of the tilt, or on the front of the tilt, the plane of the tilt, it's on the side of it.
Yes.
And then as it comes back around to the 180-degree position, which would be the summer solstice, you're on the back side of the tilt.
Yes.
So the tilt's like the tilt angle is going technically vectoring over where you have your basketball sun placed.
Yes.
And then as you come back around to what's 180 plus 90, that's mathing
270.
that I don't want. 270. Thank you, sir. My brain wasn't wanting to work. You're again at that point where you're broadsiding where the tilt is, that plane of the tilt, and that's where you get the shifting of seasons. That's where you get by broadsiding that tilt. You're not getting the effect of the tilt to bring the winter or summer seasons. That's
so
how
what
it
happens.
works.
Like technically today, the length of the day in terms of the exposure of the sun is equal on both sides, on both the northern and southern hemisphere, right?
Yes, both hemispheres get the same amount of exposure to the sun. Yes,
and that's where it starts to get. This is the first day where the days get shorter. It gets colder on the southern hemisphere, and it gets longer and hotter on the northern.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
Yep.
Which is why, by the way,
I understand exactly why that works, but that makes a lot more sense than the Earth getting closer and farther away.
Yeah,
I'm sure that they figured it out, and I just remembered it differently.
No, actually, it's probably how you were taught, because many people believe that that's the situation, that and technically it does mean that the southern hemisphere is tilted towards the southern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun, and the northern hemisphere is tilted away from the sun at the winter solstice. But that doesn't mean, it's not like it tilts that way and then the ship rights and then it tilts again. The tilt is always there and it's the same directional tilt all the time.
Exactly.
It's just it's because of the fact that it keeps that directional tilt as you're orbiting the light source. The light source is going to affect the light and heat source. The light source is going to affect it in different ways. Anybody that's done any filming or photography will also understand this. If your light source is stationary, as you move the object, you're going to have different exposure to the object with the light source and a different view of the object with the light source.
Gotcha.
It's just, as long as the light source stays stationary and your object's orientation stays stationary as it's moving around the light source, then yeah. I know it's wordy to explain, really easy if you have a model to show people. Then it gets that moment where people are like, really, I never understood it that way. And this is one of those things that is grossly misunderstood by most people.
Yeah,
because people don't. When it's explained to you, it's typically not explained in a way that you can easily grasp and visualize it.
Right.
It's explained in a way that they wrote down in a textbook, and that's not always the easiest way for people to understand it.
Right. Exactly. This definitely is something that would require some type of visual representation. Like me, I understood what you were saying with everything, but I know that this could go over a lot of people's heads without them getting a visual representation.
I know that I was trying to use words that I know would make sense to you because I know that you have done some work with filming, photography, a little bit of work in that, in some of those things, so that you'd have, and I know you have kind of a basic understanding of kind of object physics and placement of stuff. But again, that may be some of the reason why I feel this feeling come about this time of year. I'm sure that most of it had to do with my previous happiness at knowing that we'd finally have the money we needed to take care of things. And again, like I said, that was reinforced for a lot of Americans this year. And this last week in kind of the craziness, it is troubling that we still have to have that happen. But what's interesting about that is even though the past few years or so, I haven't had the tax return to look forward to. I haven't had that expectation, haven't really needed it. I still have looked forward to this time of year, and still good things have happened to me. I don't know if I don't know if we spoke about it in the previous podcast, but a couple of weeks ago we did have to get a new thing. It wasn't related to any extra money coming in, but it was related to how things break and die. Right?
I believe we talked about this. I'm not sure if you told us. If you told everyone on the podcast or not, I can't remember.
Yeah, you and I talked about this. I just wanted to say, some of the beauties of new technology is how bright and shiny it is, how much better lighting is on things.
Yes.
One of the things that's annoying about new technology is they build in things that are supposed to be good safeguards that for people like me who like to do things in an old school way and in a way that pisses off the classic sitcom dad. These new devices annoy us. And what happened is, after many years of dealing with an inexpensive refrigerator that we had bought off of Facebook, Craigslist, something like that. It was, we spent $50 on the fridge, and we've been using it for like 2 years. Mm-hmm. So I don't feel bad about that. It's a full size side by side fridge, but started having some issues with it. Started getting food too cold in the refrigerator area, even though I tried to turn it down. It's always had a bit of a water leak, so we've had to clean up underneath it with a towel. About every other day or so. Mm-hmm. It's got a water leak inside the fridge, or inside the freezer. So the normally on a side by side, you'd have like a little bucket on the bottom of the freezer side that you can put stuff in. It didn't have the bucket. Instead, it had just a giant block of ice that would continue to grow. And I would have to chip that block of ice out every, week or two. The ice machine worked, but the dispenser didn't work. So you could reach in and grab the ice that the ice machine made. If, of course, every 3 or 4 days, the ice machines, they have that little arm that goes up if there's too much ice.
Yeah.
And then if you want to lock it and stop it from working, you lock the arm up all the way into the stop position. Mm-hmm. every so many days you had to go in there and lock the arm up for about 10 seconds and then pop it back down, or the ice machine wouldn't work for a while. So that was the only way to keep it going. Or apparently, if we were in the kitchen talking about getting a new fridge, suddenly out of nowhere the ice machine would stop dropping ice, or would start dropping ice, not stop, but start.
Yes.
Like we'd have not heard the ice for like a day or two and be like, damn, is the ice machine not working? We might have to get a new refrigerator. And I kid you not,
And then
that night, like 6 times ice machine would go. And this is an old fridge. It was like, spooky fridge, what are you doing to us? Well,
it's sentient. It knows that it doesn't want to work, but it doesn't want to be replaced. So therefore, as soon as you mention talking about it, the appliance works. I've had this happen on multiple occasions with multiple things.
Yeah, cars do it too.
Oh, dude, cars do it so fucking bad. It's the weirdest thing with cars.
Somebody else gets in the car and it works fine, but when you use the car, it don't work at all. It's so annoying. But anyway,
or you start considering, man, maybe I could sell this car, maybe I could get rid of it. It's a piece of junk, or I'm having bad gas mileage, or something's going on, and then you turn the thing on, it runs like a beauty for like a week. And there's nothing wrong with it until something else happens.
Yeah. Like I said, 3 weeks before you get your tax return, car dies. You gotta fix it. Anyway, what ended up happening here was my wife went to go get water from the water dispenser, which actually the water dispenser was one of the few things that actually did work on the thing. And you push a little lever for the water to dispense.
Yeah,
she went to push the lever and it just broke. Luckily, it did not break and start spraying water and have nonstop water going, because that would have been awful. Instead, it just broke.
Oh,
so
man.
That became the point where it was like, okay, it's time. We need to go get a fridge. And we got one. We got a decent one. We actually had the ability to get, instead of just get a crappy one from Craigslist or Facebook, we were able to get a decent one.
Nice.
Like most people have to do things on payments, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with doing payments.
Yeah.
I don't have, $2,500 to drop on a nice refrigerator out of nowhere. I'm happy, but I'm not rich. To me, that's rich. That's scary, huh? That's the world I live in. It's not about buying a $350,000 Lamborghini. It's about a $2,500 fridge. That's a lot of money on a fridge.
No, I'm right there with you. That's exactly. Yes.
That's actually 80% of Americans are there.
Yes.
So y'all are not alone. That's a lot of money to pay for a damn fridge.
It is.
If it's the only fridge you want to buy for the next 15 years, then it's how much money you pay for a fridge. Funny enough, we have an old fridge. It's maybe about a 19 cubic foot, which is not enough for my family. I have way too many damn people in my family. It's an old style fridge that's got the fridge on the bottom and the freezer on top, which you can barely find those things anymore. That fridge was bought for myself and my wife by my parents. I'm going to say about 15 and a half years ago, because my youngest child was very young at that point. 15 and a half years ago, that was bought. It still works. It does not have an ice maker. Obviously, it doesn't have any kind of water dispenser. Old fridge, and it was a cheap one when they bought it. It was basically the least expensive thing at the appliance store that they could find, just so that we could have a fridge that wasn't like the super tiny apartment style fridge. I mean, it's a normal fridge, just a small one, inexpensive one. That thing still works. It doesn't have a light in it because you can't keep a light bulb going. You put a new light bulb in, it busts out within like a week.
Like putting in a new one, because is it because there's only LEDs and shit available or something like that, or does it still use the small incandescent type?
It still uses the small old ones, and you can find them. You can buy them in different places. The problem is, the thing is, something's wrong with the light bulb, with the socket for the light bulb. It burns out a light bulb real quick.
Oh man.
Interestingly enough, same light bulb in the freezer this entire time, and it works perftly fine.
There must be. Yeah, you're right. There must be something wrong with the socket that's arcing it or giving it too much juice or something.
Yeah. This has been like our stalwart in case anything. But again, my family is large enough. I do need to have the extra fridge for storage mainly.
Right.
Just can't not have it with as many people.
Understood. Yeah.
And so but the thing about the new fridge, it's a nice new fridge. It's nice and shiny. Of course, being shiny, that means fingerprints are all over it. Luckily, I'm not a stickler for cleaning up fingerprints on the stainless steel stuff. I'm just like, I have a family. I don't care. If it's messy, that's one thing. If it's got fingerprints and stuff on it, I don't care, because you're never going to get anybody just to grab it by the handle. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
There's too many people doing it. But okay, these fridges have this new thing, right? Where like if you leave the door open, it yells at you.
Oh, what?
But not like yelling at you like, "Hey, asshole, close the fridge." No, it R2D2 yells at you because it starts beeping at you when you leave the fridge open.
Okay, first off, that I consider personally that to be a genius thing, like the car door that beeps at you when you leave the keys in the ignition, or something like that. That makes a lot of sense. Or you leave your headlights on. You know,
I get that. I get that. I get those ones. I get those ones to a great extent. But like, here's the thing, and I've had like older male family members over at the house watching me cook. When I cook, I'll open the fridge. Actually, older family members watching me cook. Right? I'll open the fridge, and if I have to get stuff out of the fridge, I'll just leave the fridge open as I'm grabbing stuff. I'm not like I'm going to open it and close it, and then open it again and close it and open it. If I know I'm still getting stuff out of the fridge, I just leave the damn thing open because I'm just going to do it.
How long is
it? What?
I was going to say, how long does it take? Like, because I have seen people do that. I personally don't do that. So here's, you know what used to yell at me for leaving the fridge open when I was getting stuff out of it? My parents. So
exactly.
That's essentially what this is. It's just acting like your parents. Now,
yes.
That being said, I have to ask you, how long does it take for the fridge door to start yelling at you? Like how many seconds?
Minutes.
Oh, you leave it open for longer than 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a long time. I can't. 3 minutes open, you might as well close the... Yeah, like, dude, you might as well start it over from scratch at that point. 3 minutes is a long time.
No, it's not. The fridge is still cold. Everything is still cold.
You know what? Maybe it's my mental conditioning, man.
It is not. You've not... By leaving the fridge open... And guess what? You have not increased the power bill by doing that. You have not increased... It's like leaving lights on.
I didn't even say anything about the power bill. I'm just saying it could be something to the degree of like mental conditioning that I had when I was a kid. It feels like 3 minutes is a long time.
That's what the parents are instilling in you. They're pulling that thing because it's going to cost more in power. You leave it open. What are you trying to do? Air condition the whole house? Yeah.
Good Lord, dude. Calm down. Calm the hell down. I just like...
It's the same with leaving lights on. You leave a room, you better shut the light off. Why? I'm just going to go back in the room and turn the light on again. If I'm not going to go back in the room for the rest of the day, okay, I'll shut the light off.
No, nowadays it's not really that big of a deal. There's certain rooms I have essentially a problem with. Like, I just don't want to leave like halogen bulbs on all the time. Like,
you're speaking about a specific thing that you don't want to do because of the specific nature of.
But if it's LEDs on in the whole fucking house, no, it doesn't matter. They're all LED. They take up like a watt an hour.
Yeah,
it's not that big of a deal.
It's really not. And so
incandescent, totally. 60-watt bulbs all over the place is nuts. But those things now are like 3 watts, 1 watt. That leave the fucking lights on 24 hours a day and you'll have like maybe a tenth of the power consumption that you had depending upon the type of light. Like if it was on for a regular amount of time, like there's a severe power savings in LEDs.
I get more irritated personally when lights are flipping on and off all the time. I'd rather just leave the light on and just leave it on. I have lights that are on all day. I have lights that are on 24 hours a day in my house. They just stay on all the time because I feel more comfortable that way. But anyway, when I'm cooking, I'll open the fridge and I'll be getting in it. I mean, again, if I'm doing a bunch of stuff, I'm not going to be opening and closing the fridge a whole bunch of times. I'm just going to get stuff. Well, yes, you leave this fridge open. I actually don't know the exact amount of time. I threw out 3 minutes there, but I honestly don't know how long it is. But it starts beeping at you. So if for instance you just got groceries, right, and you're trying to put all the groceries away in the fridge, and you got the doors open to put the groceries away in the fridge. If you don't put the groceries away fast enough into the fridge, it starts beeping at you. But then it's taking more time.
Okay, that would be a bitch.
No, it gets better. It beeps at you, and then you don't close. It beeps at you again, and then the fucking thing gets passive aggressive on you.
Does it start talking to you?
No, it starts flickering the lights on and off inside the fridge. Which is basically,
hey, asshole, are you deaf?
Yeah.
See the fact that the fucking door is open.
Yeah, seriously. Which I get the point of it. It's trying to remind you if you accidentally leave the door open, but it's like you have to go through a whole bunch of like buttons to make it stop doing that.
That's fantastic.
And you have to do it each time. You can't just preset it to not do that anymore. Unless, of course, you apparently some of the new refrigerators are Bluetooth capable and you can get an app to control your refrigerator, which is beyond my brain. But yeah. So my fridge now yells at me to close it. And it's like I said, I've had the older family members watch me and just be glaring daggers at me like, do you know how much power you're using? And part of it just like, I'll just keep it open longer. I'll leave it open and stand right here in front of it because you aren't going to tell me anymore that I can't have the damn fridge open. I'm the adult now. Sorry, I was having my Captain Phillips moment.
But anyway. That's well said. I mean, that's funny because I actually have a technology issue myself.
You do?
I do. I might be able to go. Okay, yeah. I might be able to tell you about this. I don't know if you'll be able to associate with this or not. Like, I don't know. Maybe we should leave it for after the break.
Yeah, I think now's a good time to take a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just remember this, just before we go to the break, remember when it comes time for your family or you personally or whatever to go and buy a new refrigerator, just remember some of the new ones try to yell at you. Maybe you're into that. I don't know. But I can tell you right now that it gives me some reminders of childhood that I'm not necessarily fond of.
Oh, that's
anyway,
fantastic.
We'll take a break and Mike gets to tell us after the break about his interesting,
yes,
I guess, technological thing he has to deal with.
Yes.
We'll be back in just a minute.
All right.
Hey friends, this is Mike from the Xennial Chronicles reminding you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Xencron, spelled Xenchron, to keep up to date on all things TXC. And please check out our official website, theXennialChronicles.com, or if that's too much to type, Xencron.com. Thanks again for listening, and now, back to the show.
And we're back, everybody.
All right.
During the break, just so you know, I went downstairs, yelled at the fridge. It yelled at me. I wasn't down there long enough for it to get all passive aggressive on me and start doing the light thing. But seriously, me and that fridge is going to have it out at some point or another.
During the break, I did share a short synopsis of this story for Tash so she can get the full story later when this podcast comes out. But I will say that she did want me to mention to you that we do have a $1,500 fridge that we got relatively, I think it was on clearance, but it does not yell at us or flick the lights on and off like a pissed off child.
That's lucky for you. However, if I remember correctly, it's the feature I like in your fridge. You've got the water thing inside the water dispenser is inside on the side wall of the fridge. So you have to open the doors of your fridge to get to the water dispenser. It's got a little button, and you have to hold the glass in there.
Yes.
See,
although I will tell you this, the pressure of that, and here's the crazy part about this: the water pressure into the piece is not. It doesn't matter. So, but that thing launches water out of that motherfucker. Like that thing will. If you angle the cup wrong, you're splashing water all over yourself, all over the food, all over the shelving.
And this is exactly where I was getting to in this.
Okay.
We needed to make sure with the residents of our household, because we've got a big household. We've got some people that aren't necessarily the most graceful people in the world.
Understood.
That if they tell you they've spilled something, it's kind of like, yeah, okay. We're used to that. That's life. We have towels in strategic locations specifically for these people that we know they're going to spill things. We know that's the nature of the beast.
Understood entirely.
That's why we did not get a fridge that had that. Admittedly, also the place where we got our fridge, we only had so many options, so we picked the option that we liked the best, that had the features that we liked the best, and would be happy with for the next so many years. But that was one that we were like, that would be a cool option. I had told my wife about it because I saw it at your house. I'm like, it's cool, and I showed her. We went to Home Depot or Lowe's, whichever one, just to walk around at some
Yeah.
point or another and look at future dream about appliances, because we've been dreaming about the fridge thing forever. And with the ghost fridge, the haunted fridge, whatever you want to call it, the sentient fridge, continuing to work, and still we'd be dreaming when we can do it, we want to do it. This new year brought us the ability to do it, but it was like, we've been searching for a while for what our new fridge would be. And I showed her one of those. She goes, "That's really cool." And we were thinking about, we want to get a fridge like that. We're going to be looking for a fridge like that. It's just really cool to have it on the inside there. It's a neat hidden feature. And then we had the realization, oh God, what's it going to be like with some of the other people in the household trying to fill their water from that thing? Because it's like a little, it's like a little diagonal nipple on the side of the wall.
Yeah.
There's no shroud for it, really. There's nothing to stop the, like when you have the one in the door, right? It's got like this cutout into the door. So you have to stick the thing into the door and push the button or the panel or whatever it is, the lever. And so you're roughly lined up in the correct spot anyway.
Right.
Ice can be a crapshoot because sometimes the ice shoots out slow, sometimes it shoots out fast. And then, of course, if you do crushed ice, that's just like, unless you have a wide opening that you're putting the crushed ice into, you're screwed.
Oh, that is a nightmare.
You have the sports bottles, and people try to put the crushed ice in the sports bottles. Right, it's everywhere. But at least you have a little bit of a cutout to guide the way. There's no cutout for your thing. It's just a little nipple on the inside that, like you say, shoots the water out. And my thought was just like, they'd have the fridge open the whole time. And like, that's probably why, by the way, that your fridge does not yell at you, because you have to have it open long enough to get the water out of there. And then clean up the mess that you make from the water splattering all over. It may have had that capability. And then when they were doing tests on it, like, great, okay. Oh, the water's splashing a little bit. That's okay. People can, deal with it. It's just water. It's not like it's sticky. They have to clean up. They're cleaning it up now. Oh, wait, the fridge is about to tell them that they've kept the door open too long and they're cleaning it up. Oh, no. Oh, we're seeing a cluster of events happening right here. We need to
clean it up. The door is too far open. The water is everywhere. The lights are turning on and off.
We need to do something here. We need to do something. Well, the feature is that the water's there. There's not much we can do about that. Fine. Cancel the whole door alarm thing. We'll cancel that part. We just won't put that feature in here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got a question. Oh man. What your let me double verify with you here, because you may have mentioned it. You have a water dispenser in your fridge and it's on the outside, right?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say, because if you happen to have I have a question for you. Where is the water filter located in your fridge?
Ooh, easy access.
From the outside?
No, it's in the inside, but it's easy to access.
Oh, okay. Because we have an easy access filter, but the way that it's set, you have to take it, you have to twist it open, and there's a potential spill and all this kind of stuff. I'm just imagining the potential possibility with your fridge having a water filter that requires an extended amount of time to change.
I guarantee you, when we go to change the water filter on the fridge, I guarantee you already, it's going to be yelling
and flashing the lights on
and flashing the lights at me, and so it'll be like my own personal cold version of Cops. Seriously, it's
Whirlpool. This is a major design flaw, or whoever made your fridge. I have no idea. LG,
Samsung, actually.
Samsung. Come on, guys. We thought you were way more considerate. Terrible.
I don't know. Have you ever used a Samsung phone?
I actually have one.
I know you have.
Yeah,
I know you have. So
my wife and I both have them, and
they're not necessarily the most considerate all the time.
No, you know what? I'm actually quite shocked, because it was more recently than not that these phones started freaking out. But what's really funny is that Metro, because I'm on Metro they're marketing the 5G thing to us, and our phones are freaking out at the very convenient time that they've got 5G around.
Your phone is doing this too.
Have the
same. You have the same. I think you have almost the same phone as me, if I remember correctly.
I have a S6, a Galaxy S6. It's an older phone, but we got it on for a deal and a half, like back when we first got them.
Okay, I have. I don't have the exact same phone, but I do have a similar phone.
You have an A40?
And it is 50.
A50. Okay, I had a Galaxy A40 for a while, and then we got the S6 because it just had better hardware in it, but it was cheaper.
Mine Mine has been doing all of ours, actually, the whole household has these. We've had the same exact problem that for the last 2 or 3 months, they keep disconnecting from the network on like a daily basis. 2 and 3 times a day, they'll disconnect from the
I'm getting
network.
dropped calls constantly. My phone coverage where I'm working is good. It's decent. And for the longest time, I had this huge dead zone in a previous job. I was never able to look stuff up. But more recently, like, this phone has been having problems where I press a button and it takes, 5 or 6 seconds for it to react on the screen. Or one of my favorite ones is when it's asking for my...
wonder.
Yeah. One of my favorite ones is where it's asking for my fingerprint, but when it asks for my fingerprint, it waits to verify it, then it won't verify it, or it's freezing trying to verify it. The screen turns on and then shuts itself off because it's not being used, even though it's processing something. It's very ridiculous.
I don't use them fingerprint things.
Oh, I do the fingerprint.
No, I don't use the fingerprint things, mainly because I'm almost never without my phone.
Right.
Like, I'll kill somebody over trying to take my phone.
My issue is
the only person. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, the only issue with fingerprint is the reason why I use fingerprint, which works, is because fingerprint opens up your phone faster than using a passcode or a draw design or some shit, but you want to be able to lock your phone. You are saying that you're not necessarily concerned with locking your phone. Is that correct?
No, I don't lock my phone.
Do you still get prompts telling you that you should lock your phone? Like the nag prompts that say, hey, you're not using this, you should do this. I fucking hate those. That's why I started using my fingerprint, because it at least stopped bugging me for that.
Occasionally I'll get those prompts, but I don't do the lock on my phone, and the main reason for that is I don't let other people ever touch my phone.
Understood entirely.
Like my wife can, because I have nothing on my phone to hide from my wife.
Right.
Literally anything that I do send anybody messages or anything, she's sitting usually like 4 or 5 feet away from me, and I'm showing her all the conversations. And then I don't let my kids touch my phone at all.
Yeah, I was going to say, your kids ain't touching your damn phone. Yeah, absolutely. They got their own. They've got their own smart devices.
Yeah, my kids don't touch my phones.
Yeah, exactly.
Completely understood. And I don't hand them over to friends for anything. Any friends, what few friends I do have their own damn phones. They don't need to be messing with my phones. I'm smart enough also. I'm not worried about people flipping through any pictures on my phone. If I do happen to hand it to them to look at a picture, I'm not worried about people flipping through any pictures, because I have no pictures that I need to hide on my phone.
I don't even hand somebody my phone when I'm showing them a picture. And it's not that I have something to hide from anybody. I don't keep any explicit shit on my phone. That's not a place for it. But like,
no, I have a locked vault for that.
Yeah, understood entirely. Yeah, makes sense, right? So,
and the only two people that have the
it's
code.
Not your fucking business to go through somebody else's phone and their shit.
No,
I just don't think it's just not a good. I don't want to lose my phone. Maybe it's that I'm attached to it or whatever, which that's very possible. But I don't want to lose my phone, because I always, dude. I'm telling you right now, I lose my car keys on a pretty regular basis. And I am not so knowing that my phone is there in my pocket or directly in front of me, or it is in my pocket or in my hand or in my eyesight.
I actually have an event coming up next week where I have to go into the event. You know what the event is, but I don't want to necessarily say anything on here. Mm-hmm. I have an event coming up where I actually cannot bring my phone into the event, because you cannot have a phone in the event.
Yes, that's true.
The thing I'm doing, you can't have a phone. You can't have literally the only piece of electronic equipment you can have is a basic calculator.
Yep.
That is it. No electronic equipment. I can't even wear my fitness watch in there. I have to take my fitness watch off.
Yeah, you are required not to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I am familiar with his situation.
I'm just like, oh my God, I cannot believe I have to not have my phone with me for that length of time, because it's never apart from me. It is always near me, and if it's not near me, then near my wife. She has to answer it for anything. So yeah, it's a little weird, but you wouldn't think that something that would be that connected to you. But anyway, we're supposed to be talking about, we're not supposed to be talking about our phones. We're supposed to be talking about another technological problem that that you had, because we were going to have this conversation.
Yeah.
We could have had this conversation while you were eating dinner, because it would have been funny. But
I'm sorry.
But you're the one who has to do a lot of the talking. So what's this technological thing that you have to do? Does this have to do with video gaming?
Yes, it does.
Because you do so much of that.
Yes, I do quite a bit, and I will be completely, absolutely honest to anybody who sees me and does and who sees the video gaming stuff that I do. James makes a quip about it all the time about me sucking at video games, and he's not wrong. I am not a good player, or I'm not a great player, and in many cases, not even a relatively good player.
We can start a club with that, sir, because I guarantee you, I'm neither a great or good player in almost any video game.
The organization.
I have a few games that I'm fairly decent at. There's a couple of racing games that I'm good at.
Yeah.
Episode 1 Pod Racer for the Nintendo 64.
Oh yeah.
That one I'll put up a good fight with you, with just about anybody in.
Understandable.
Because I played that game way too damn much. Even to this day, I'll put up a fight with you.
You know what? Actually, speaking of that kind of stuff, I understand familiarity is a big deal with me, and this kind of works its way into it. Exactly what we're talking about here. To give you an example, before I go into what I'm talking about, I'm going to kind of segue this. So there's a whole pathway that I want to take to kind of tell you exactly how this works. So, some weeks ago, my wife was playing, because she plays the games with me as well. She'll play and I'll commentate, or vice versa, on these games. Now, she was playing something for leisure because there was a game that she used to love way back on the Super Nintendo back in the day. And we have our copy of it, but one of the first things that we got when we got an Xbox One was this game, Killer Instinct. If anybody remembers that.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Now, here's the thing about the company. The company that owned and created the game Killer Instinct originally created for Nintendo consoles. They were called Rare. Rare is the company. They did a lot of flagship games on Nintendo consoles. We're talking they did the Donkey Kong Country series of games.
Perfect Dark.
GoldenEye, Conker's Bad Fur Day. All of these. Banjo-Kazooie was a Rare property. Like, they still are, actually, except for Donkey Kong. Obviously, that's a Nintendo property. But everything else, essentially, is owned by Rare, with the exception of the James Bond GoldenEye shit. That's what Paramount Pictures, I think, owns that. But anyways, so Killer Instinct as a series was coming out exclusively on Nintendo consoles. It first came out on the SNES. After it came out, it was an arcade game first. Then it came out on the SNES. Then a sequel, Killer Instinct 2, came out as Gold on the N64. That one did not hit as hard because the N64's control configuration was not friendly with fighting games at all. Right? You had it was the analog stick feels different from a joystick control on an arcade board, right?
Especially during that time frame when it was one of the first real analog sticks that was being used.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. It wasn't hitting because at that time, you the PlayStation did not have analog sticks on its main controller.
Not yet.
It wasn't until the PlayStation 2 they did it. Although there were some Mad Catz ones, I think, for the PlayStation that eventually had them. But
Sony did come out with the DualShock controller that was compatible with the original PlayStation. However, it wasn't until after Nintendo came out with their console that Sony did that to update themselves to more modern technology. They did it as a counteract, which is kind of fun.
The Nintendo 64 controllers were considered by most people to be some of the worst gaming controllers ever created.
Oh, they are fucking weird.
It's funny. I think there was something posted to the this YouTube thing that you do, the show that you do, the Chronicles games, that you do with your wife. There's something posted to the Facebook of it recently that was it was for controllers, and it was like PlayStation for PlayStation, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and they're all the same, exactly the same.
Yeah.
And there was one for Xbox that like a little bit of change is good, and there's just slight variation.
Yeah.
And then I forget what the caption was for the Nintendo, but it was basically like, something to the effect of, go crazy, go nuts, whatever.
Yeah. Yes. They jump from, they have every single controller they've ever come out with any of their home console systems are entirely different from each other in a vast degree. And they'll have stuff that, they try to bring that classic stuff back for like the older gamers like myself, but not most of the time they're doing something entirely new every single system, which is both fun and frustrating to certain degrees. Now, speaking of Nintendo and speaking of Killer Instinct, one of the things that Tash started to do with my wife Tash started to do with
wait, you named her on here? This is the second time. I didn't call it the first time.
Yeah,
but you're actually giving her a name.
I am giving her a name. My wife Tasha.
Well,
she's my co-host, man.
She does do.
She does the games with me.
So
yeah, she's online. She has an online personality. It's okay. I understand entirely.
And there's more people watching those than listening to this. So she's probably more famous than me.
So, jeez. I'll let her know you said that. But anyway, so
that should make her feel good.
Yeah. But but anyway, so she decided, or we both decided when we got our Xbox console, Microsoft, the company, had purchased Rare. That's what I'm getting at with this. And Killer Instinct was ported over to the Xbox One. And
yes,
not the
actually I saw this because on the Xbox One you can download the Rare pack.
Yes.
Right, with all the stuff in it?
Yeah, well there's so with Killer Instinct there's like an Ultimate Edition and you got the downloads and all that kind of stuff. And that's what we had done initially. But the older version of the game, the original version of the arcade version of the game, is part of the download. We got the Ultimate Edition, so you get Killer Instinct 1 and Killer Instinct 2 from the original arcade versions playable, but the brand new version of Killer Instinct, the 25-year anniversary reboot that came out like 2016, I think, was when it came out. So it's like the 20th anniversary, I think, or something like that, of the original Killer Instinct. So this is way back, right? So...
Yeah.
So she starts playing this game, and she's playing it on the new Xbox controller, which has a relatively similar form factor to a degree of the Super Nintendo controller, but the physics are different and the way that you play the game is different. They designed the game and the control scheme for the SNES back in the day to where being able to pull off combos, and that's the thing about Killer Instinct, is large-scale combos. Yeah, it's large-scale combos, hit after hit after hit, but with minimal work. That was the point. You don't have to hit the button every time you hit the other character. It's patterns that you use. Well, it's meant for the SNES controller originally to play these different patterns. It is not the same type of pattern on the new console. It doesn't play exactly the same. So you have to think a lot more about it, and the physics has changed, and character strengths are rebalanced. So now, certain characters are nerfed and certain characters are buffed really bad and you don't know how to go. And so she's not having a great time. Okay. Now here's the thing about the new Killer Instinct and a lot of the other games is Killer Instinct moved to a more conventional fight format where it is not great for controllers as much as it's great for arcade sticks. If you have an arcade stick, you can go to town. And most of the time, if you have a good arcade stick, you can go to town on damn near any fighting game on the planet, right? If you have one, you can work with Mortal Kombat real well, the Street Fighter series, Killer Instinct, SNK stuff, like King of Fighters, like all that.
Hold on. Seriously, though, you got to be a hardcore nerd gamer living in your mom's basement to have a freaking the whole joystick setup. That's hardcore.
Well, if you're talking like the full-size deal, well, here's the thing. I just picked up an arcade stick recently, and they're like, I think
another one other than the one you showed me.
No, not the double. That was like the big double deal. That one is on its own. That's not just an arcade stick. That's like a 801 arcade machine that you hook up to your television set. Like that's a whole. Okay. All the games are in it, free play.
That's like the next, the even higher level.
That is the basement nerd stick right there. That's what we have. Yeah. That is the basement nerd stick.
Because that's what all of that whole diatribe was just basically digging on you because I knew you already had one of these.
No, totally. No, that's the basement nerd stick. But this one that we just picked up is actually more drawn towards the, it's the home. Now, get this. These types of sticks. This is more of the converted. You're living in the converted garage. Yeah, this is the
as
converted
opposed to the
garage
base
stick,
one.
but this stick is compatible with everything. So it's PC compatible, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It does the PS3, the 360.
Okay, so it hooks
Switch.
up through a USP.
Yes, it is. That's exactly what USP. Yes, it's a USB controller that is compatible with multiple systems in one controller.
Seriously,
so you just hook it up and go to town.
You didn't think I would do that, did you? You
No,
really
I
didn't
missed.
think I'd bring the
I
USP
had
in
to
here.
think about that for a minute when you said it. Yeah. So
Oh, that's beautiful.
So, yeah. Speaking of which, like this is great because I showed it to her and she realized the difference in control with an actual arcade stick versus a small controller. Small controllers, dependent especially upon the game, are worlds different, and they're so much more immersive as a control capability. But there's more to this story because I'm also
and I just my own personal little anecdote. I'll make it quick.
Yeah.
Our website and tech guy Rob, other tech guy Rob. We've talked about him many times here on the
definitely.
The podcast. It used to be hell trying to play. We played a game called Marathon, which was made by the same company that made Halo, Bungie. This is before they made Halo, before Xboxes came out. They were making first person shooters for Apple computers. Interestingly enough, not for any PCs and whatnot. And he had a couple of computers that were networked in the house to be able to fight with, because you couldn't. That's the only way you could have a match against somebody, is you had to be on local network attached, because internet speeds were not fast enough back then to be able to really. I mean, you had to deal with major lag. So he would hook up. This is how we would play fighting games and play stuff, especially first-person shooters against each other at that time, was to hook up two computers and then go at it. And he would toast me every single time because I could not figure out how to. I ended up not using the mouse for looking, so if I had to look up or down, I was screwed. But I was able to at least get the keyboard. I think in only one of those games you could do the mouse for looking up and down.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to use the keyboard to be able to finally get an appropriate approximation of moving that I could get from using a controller. And it was hell for me. He would just completely toast me in this game.
Yeah.
But then he'd come over to my place and we'd hook up the Nintendo 64 and play Quake on Nintendo 64. And I could actually hold my own against him. Sometimes even beat him. Not every time, because he was still a good video game player, but I could sometimes beat him because the difference between him playing on a keyboard and how he had learned how to play those first-person shooters on the keyboard to the controller was like major difference, and it was enough to make it so I couldn't play the keyboard version. This is also the same guy, by the way, that did the network for all of our computers at our high school. Which isn't much. There's only like 8 computers because we had a really small high school. But he networked all of the computers together at the high school, and then he secretly put Quake on all of the computers.
Nice.
So that everybody could basically different people could log on in the different classrooms.
And he set up a LAN
game of Quake. Yep.
Dope.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Now you know why I go to him for
that
all
is
that
awesome.
Stuff.
Oh my God.
Yes.
That is, dude. He is God. Damn.
Of course,
some heroes don't wear capes, man. Holy smokes.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
They don't wear capes. They just carry around gigantic Q-tips. Inside joke. I'll explain another time. Okay. Anyway. I hopped on there one time and got my ass handed to me because, again, I don't know how to use a damn keyboard.
Yeah. See, I suck at first-person shooters in general, and PC-based first-person shooters are just like, no fucking way. I can't do it.
Yeah. No.
So I feel your pain there. But speaking of which, I introduced this arcade stick to her, and it was under the impression that if you get something like this,
baseline here.
Yes, it is under.
With you saying that,
yes,
I introduced this arcade stick to her.
Oh God!
Sorry.
But anyways, so I introduced this to her with the understanding that most fighting games across all platforms are pretty universal. So using an arcade stick would be able to tell you kind of everything. Now, here is where I started to show my age as a gamer. And you might understand this. So, are you near your video game setup, sir, right now?
Kind of, sort of. I
Okay.
mean,
Do you
I'm near all
have-
the old video games.
Okay. You don't have access to a controller from your old Super Nintendo, do you?
Oh yeah.
Okay, do you have access to a controller from either your 360 or Xbox One?
Yeah.
Okay.
360.
So I want you to take a look at the controllers themselves.
Uh-huh.
And here I'm going to introduce something. Now, one of the games that I have been playing while Tash comments in the Chronicles Games channel is we're currently playing Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah.
Right? We got help from a friend. She actually brought she mailed it to us so that we could play it because we weren't big on the Red Dead series at all. We weren't really digging on it. I played the original Red Dead Revolver to start off the storyline, so I did that one and I played that version on the original PlayStation 2.
Hold on a second.
Yes.
Now, you said to look at the controllers. I didn't physically get up and get the controllers. Do I really need to physically get up and get the controllers? Or
No, I can
just
describe it to you.
mentally kind of visualize.
No, you can
'Cause
mentally visualize it.
if you want me to get up and get them, I'll get up and get them.
No, you
Hold
don't
on,
have
I'll
to do it.
now.
No,
Doing it right now.
No, you don't have to get the controllers, James.
Getting the controllers right now.
You don't have to get them.
You can't cut this out. You have to keep this in. It's funnier this way.
You don't have to get. You got it?
Did my voice sound all tiny for a moment?
Yes, it did. Quite. You were very far away.
Nice. You not really. I was like 8 feet or something. God.
Well,
Sorry.
far
You
enough.
continue with your story now.
It's good
Do not
focus
cut
on that
this
mic.
out.
I'm not cutting it out. I am not cutting it
Go
out. Okay.
So Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah. So with this, so I'm playing RDR, and I play the first Red Dead Revolver, and then it moves on the timeline to Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, Red Dead Redemption 2 is extremely, extremely immersive, where you're told to do something, and it gives you a prompt to do it, but it gives it to you in a minimalist fashion so that you can see things, but a lot of things happen in real time. And one of the things that affect your real-time decision-making is your capability of pressing the right fucking buttons, okay? Now, I grew up on the Super Nintendo. And if you were to take a look at the face buttons on the right-hand side of the Super Nintendo, you'll notice 4 letters. A, B, X, and Y. Okay? Now, just to give you an idea of my issue, okay? Just to give you an idea, I was great at multiplication in math as a kid. Division was where I had to work backwards. And it was just mind-numbingly hard for me to get a grasp of division when I was in like 3rd grade. Okay? It was nuts. I couldn't grasp doing multiplication backwards because that's what it felt like. Multiplication forwards, cool, but now I have to count backwards from the high number down by XYZ version. It may have to do with ADHD, probably, most likely, but I just have that problem with the pattern recognition. Working a pattern backwards is odd.
They also may not have given you really a good. Because you're a visual guy. If you have a visual either given to you or described to you appropriately, makes it work. They may not have given you a good visual.
Yeah,
they may have tried to. They may have tried to. See, the thing is, like when they teach people fractions, right? They teach people fractions separately from teaching them division.
Yes.
But fractions is division.
Yes.
Fractions is division is in its most basic sense.
Yes.
And so they use pi to teach fractions. And for some people, pi is, and I'm not talking pi like 3.14, all the numbers. I'm not a dork, so I don't know them all. But I'm talking like pi that you eat, like apple or, whatever. And you're slicing up pieces of pie, and that's how you can understand fractions, like 1/8 of a pie.
Yes.
Sometimes the teachers jokingly talk about pizza. But like the thing is, it can apply to anything that we like things that are circular and cut them into pieces because it's easy to do. That's why we have 360 degrees in a circle, and we can cut that up just like the whole sun and earth discussion earlier. We can cut that up into its little pieces, and it all makes sense to us because we like circles are nice, they're easy, they're fun to work with. But you can look at anything and be able to. I've always liked the idea of being able to divide squares evenly into things. Mm-hmm. And so divide a square into 8 little squares. They're all little squares too. Just, they're like circles, but with pointies.
Yes.
And so I always felt like it was so much easier for people to learn division if they could equate it directly to fractions, and they view each division problem as literally the exact same thing as a fraction problem.
See, here's the funny part about that. I was introduced, if I remember correctly, I was introduced the idea of division and long division before fractions were introduced to me, because the school system apparently at that time thought that that was a good idea. I grasped fractions like nobody's business.
Because they make sense better.
Yes.
Because the idea of being able to, especially if you grew up in a household full of siblings, I guarantee you always had to figure out how to split shit in different ways.
Yeah, all the time.
So the idea of splitting something into multiple pieces and trying to be as equal as possible, without, so that you don't piss off the sibling thinking you got a bigger piece of some shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing is, like, if you got to figuring out how to do that, dividing is just making fractions out of things.
Yeah.
And so if you teach them both at the same time and get that understanding of, you're just taking something that this is a whole and you're breaking it down by this many parts. That's that simple and that easy. It's just, but anyway, sorry.
Yes.
No, I get you that. So division was your problem.
Right.
And this feels like division to you because it's backwards.
Somewhat. Okay. So let me explain this. So if you notice the SNES, to other people at home, so they, just in case they aren't picking up what I'm putting down here. So if you look at the face buttons on the Super Nintendo, it's X, Y, A, and B. And on the Microsoft controllers, the Xbox controllers, X, Y, A, and B are also on there. But I psychologically thought of, if you stick your thumb on the right-hand side of the controller, it's not up, down, left, and right button based on the position of my thumb from when I was a kid. It was the two top buttons and the two bottom buttons. Now, the reason why that was the case is because the Super Nintendo has color-coded the two buttons on the top, quote-unquote, which is the left and top button, to be pink, and the bottom two buttons to be purple. So, right and down...
pink. They look kind of lavendery to me. Lavender and plum.
Oh, okay. We'll split the hairs here. So, yes, lavender and plum. Now, I also was a fan of seeing the Japanese stuff as well. And if you notice, the four colors on the Japanese controllers are green, yellow, blue, and red. Those are the colors of the four buttons on the face of the Super Nintendo controller. That's actually
Japanese ones.
Fun little fact. Well, the Japanese and the European Super Famicom controllers all said that. They were.
I never saw one of those.
Okay, yeah, they were green, yellow, blue, and red. Okay, that was the colors of the buttons, and they were in order of left, top, right, bottom, and clockwise from the left. It's Y, X, A, and B. Now, if you were to, and I always think left to right, top and bottom, so YX for top and BA for the bottom, yes, because B and A was the left and right buttons initially in the original NES. Now, if you take that control scheme and you look at the Xbox controller, X and Y buttons are fucking flipped, and so are A and B. Yeah. And on top of that, the Xbox also uses the same colors as the Super Famicom buttons do. And I was familiar with those colors in their placement, but they're in different spots. So now I have a scrambled image of what colors are where. They are reversed left and right and up and down on the Xbox controller. And X and Y are flipped backwards, and B and A are flipped backwards in my mind's eye because I've been playing Super Nintendo for 25 fucking years, 30 years.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
You are just giddy right now, realizing what kind of crappy mess I've been having, aren't you?
No. The same thing has been happening to me.
Holy shit! My wife is so listening to this right now. She is so listening to this before it goes out or when it goes out.
But in reverse.
What, you're used to the Microsoft controls, and then you go play the Switch, which is the same as the Super Nintendo controls? Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay.
It is happening to me because I'm having to push for every time I play any of the Switch games that wants me to push A to confirm anything.
Yes.
And so I am pushing the button that is furthest to the right every single time. Or not. Sorry, I'm pushing the button that's down. The bottom
which
button.
Which is the B button,
of the
right.
4 buttons. I'm pushing that button, but it wants me to push the other one. Well, on a Microsoft controller, the B button, which is the button they're telling me to push, is how you exit out of things and how you usually say no. You usually say yes by the button on the bottom. But I'm I'm getting those two buttons confused because it's like, shit, I'm used to pushing that one.
Okay.
So I have to tell myself every time the Switch controller is handed to me, I have to put my finger literally over that button and say, this is the button you have to push to make shit happen. Because if you don't, shit won't happen because this is the right one for this damn controller.
Okay. So now I get to tell you a couple of the things. I'll tell you one of the major things. It's fucking hilarious, okay? Because here's the problem with so much. Oh my God. Okay, now you're getting exactly where I'm going. I go into fits of rage when I'm playing this game, and some of those videos are on, and I have been playing Red Dead Redemption 2 for like 2 months, okay? We've had videos going on. We've got 18 total videos, I think, as of today that have come out for Red Dead Redemption 2. I still can't get the fucking control scheme down because I'm thinking the buttons are flipped. So on the first episode, what we do is it the first or the second? I think it's the first episode. One of the ways that the game affects your fate, like the end of the game, there's a good ending and a bad ending. And it depends on how you act on a karmatic level. Okay? So if you do good deeds and act nobly during the game to the degree that you can because you're a fucking gang member, so you're robbing trains and people and shit. Like, to a degree, if you are able to act benevolently in many opportunities, you have to end up pressing the right button at the right time. And if you don't act or you decide to ignore somebody, it reacts negatively to you karmatically. Yeah. Mm-hmm. One of the first opportunities that you get in the first 20 minutes of the game is you break up a you break up. I think there's a house that you find. You're looking for shelter. It starts off you're out in the snow. You're in a gang of outlaws, and you're looking for shelter in the snow. Okay, well, you come upon a house where a rival gang is in the house. So you take out the rival gang, and you're finding out more information. This rival gang is not just a rival gang; they are the absolute antagonists. Like, both of you guys want each other dead. The head of your gang and the head of their gang have bad blood between each other. Everybody wants to kill each other. It's total Wild West cowboy shit, right? So when there's an area where you are interrogating a rival gang member in a barn, okay? You are holding him by the collar after you've beaten him in the face and interrogated him to get information. Once he gives you this information, the gang leader tells you, well, whatever you do doesn't matter. Spare him or kill him. I don't care. So you have the option to spare or kill this person. One is spare, let him run, and be like, don't you fucking come around here again, and that's it. These two buttons, spare and kill, are mapped to the X and Y buttons. And because I wanted to spare this man, I accidentally choked him to death. That little is what showed up in Spike.
I mean, I can just imagine me like, what the? I'm going to have to watch this now.
Oh, it pissed me. I was like, no, that's the wrong button. What the fuck? Like, I lose my mind at this because it's so fucking infuriating. And it happens so often. So often I'm hitting the wrong button, or I'm shooting, or I'm punching when I should be blocking, or I'm shooting when I shouldn't be shooting, or like I'm selecting the wrong item, or there's what you have to catch one of these guys so you could bring him in to interrogate him, and you lasso him up, you hog tie him, you have to throw him on your horse. Well, the X button puts the person on the horse, like it loads carcasses, like you go and you shoot live, you shoot live game, you kill live game, and that kind of shit. So the X button on the Microsoft controller takes this person and puts him on the horse, and then the Y button is what allows you to mount your horse so you could ride off. Well, if you're next to the horse, I'm sitting here for like 20 seconds, and I'm taking this guy and putting him on my horse and then taking him off the horse, and then putting him on the horse and taking him off the horse. Fucking ridiculous. This is the kind of shit I'm doing because I can't mentally understand that just the Y button is the wrong button. I can't think it's backwards to me. So I've been doing this for 18 fucking episodes, and it's driving me insane.
I remember that I had to when I played Quake on the Nintendo 64, I had to change out the various what each button did so that I could find a configuration that would make me remember it, because they had I was weird. It was one of the first controllers that had not the first, but one of the first ones that had the trigger style button.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to most people had that as their actual trigger for the gun, because that made sense. But I actually made that my jump button, because that made more sense to me that be a jump button on that controller.
Okay, so you're able to remap at least, which makes more sense
to some extent. But yeah, I've had similar problems when I've gone from from like the Halo games I've played a lot of, and on different Halo games, initially some of the buttons do certain different things, especially going from the original Halo on the Xbox to any of the upgrades of Halo on the on Xbox 360 or beyond.
Yeah.
And different controllers, different buttons. I mean, there was buttons that the Xbox controller didn't have that now the newer Xbox controller, the 360 and the Xbox One have.
Yeah.
But yeah, lately that same exact issue has been a big issue on the Switch for me. Whenever I try to play games with my wife or the kids on the Switch,
mm-hmm.
and that's the biggest issue. I mean, so far the only game that I play on a really regular basis with them has been the Mario Kart 8. So
yeah, okay.
Luckily, I just need to have my hand on kind of one button on that, and not have to worry too much about the others, because I don't use no brakes. Who uses brakes in Mario Kart? I don't brake, I just drift.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. It's drift is the handbrake button, man. Like basically. If you're playing a real racing game, like a racing sim, handbrake button is your drift, and everybody learned to drift from Mario Kart. Like that was the way to go. But yeah, okay, so you understand where I'm coming from. The funny part is I've just been playing classic SNES games for the longest time, and I've had that burned into my head. And I never owned a Microsoft console before a 360, and I barely played a 360. The only 360 games I played were like fighting games. So this makes a lot of sense for me too, because fighting games have the same generalized button configuration. The 3 top buttons are your punches, the 3 bottom buttons are your kicks, and that's it.
It's pretty generalized in that.
Yeah.
And it also makes sense I'm thinking back to my video game progression, okay?
Yeah.
And so the first system I had was an SNES, the standard Nintendo. The original, or not SNES, sorry. NES, just the standard Nintendo. Mm-hmm. I said that wrong the first time. I had a standard Nintendo. The next system I got was a Sega Genesis. And then I got the Nintendo 64. As a kid, I never actually owned a Super Nintendo. I didn't own a Super Nintendo until I was an adult. And I went from the Nintendo 64 to eventually getting a PlayStation, and then GameCube, Xbox, and then Dreamcast, of course, because you can't live without the Dreamcast in the late 90s.
Oh, no.
2000s. You have to have your Dreamcast.
Yep.
But then it was buying various different products, and PlayStation 2, which I probably put more miles on the multiple PlayStation 2s that I've had than probably any other gaming system, and that's just from during that era. PlayStation 2 had a bunch of group party style games, Rock Band, Guitar Hero, SingStar, all games that are really fun to do when people are drinking and are also musicians. Wish you would have had a chance to experience some of that with me, sir. But
yeah, I know, man. I just missed out.
Yeah, you did. But since then, I've bounced between them. But the one that I have played the most personally, I played a lot of I keep saying it. I played a lot of regular Nintendo because that was all I had. When I had my Sega Genesis, I had I only had 2 or 3 games for it, so I played those all the time because that's all I had. On PlayStation, funny enough, like you said, the fighting games was most of what I played. The Tekken games.
Yeah.
Soul Blade, which was the first in the actual Soul Calibur line of games, but the first one for the original PlayStation was called Soul Blade. Love that game. I love the intro to that game. The theme song that's the intro to that game.
Oh yeah,
is freaking amazing. but that was a fun game to play.
I had Soul Blade back in the day too. I loved the hell out of that game.
Oh, it's still one of my favorite games.
Yeah, absolutely.
I spent 2 or 3 days solid playing Soul Blade and Tekken 3 just over and over and over
dude,
again.
Tekken 3 all day long.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who's your Tekken 3 guy?
I have two major
we discussed
ones.
this before, but I can't remember.
I have two major ones. I do go with martial law, but
Okay.
Lei
Drunken
Wulong is
boxing.
Lei Wulong's my other major one.
Okay.
Lei Wulong, and then third in the list is Hwarong.
Yeah, mine's Hwarong.
Yours
All
Hwarong?
the way.
Yeah,
Yes.
dude, footsies, man. He's king of footsies. Yeah, he's so good.
I'm gonna kick you. I'm gonna kick you some more. Then I'm gonna kick you and get on the other side of you, and then I'm gonna kick you some more.
Yeah, no,
Kick,
I
kick,
love
kick,
the
kick.
I love the just the whole drunken boxing multi stance
I'm gonna flop on the ground,
kung fu shit that Lei Wulong
and then
does.
I'm gonna get
Fantastic.
up.
Yep.
And I'm gonna flop on the ground again, and then I'm gonna get up.
Then I'm gonna act
I'm
like
gonna
I'm
kick you.
drunk.
I'm gonna flop on
Then
the
be
ground.
like crane kick.
But no, yeah, it makes sense to me. The ones that the system that I spent probably the most time playing was the Xbox and the Xbox 360. So that controller which is why when I had the choice to get either a PS4 or an Xbox One, I got the Xbox One because I felt more connection to the Xbox stuff than anything else. And I mean, my Halo story. Of being at the special event to be some of the first people in North America to even hear about the game Halo back when it was a top-down strategy game and was still going to be on Apple computers and not even bought up by Microsoft yet.
Yeah.
And so I mean they were giving us messages from Cortana even back then. But
holy shit, Microsoft ran with that.
They did, and look what it created.
Wow.
So I've always felt more of that connection to it, to Xbox in general for that, and that's why I'm having, like I said, I'm having the exact same weird thing. So yes, tell the wife that you are not the only one that has controller issues.
That is
I may not
amazing.
have as bad as you, but here's the thing. I also know why I don't have the situation, the issue as bad as you have. I can tell you why.
Why?
I am not the level of gamer that you are.
Oh, okay.
And not in ability. I'm not talking in ability.
No.
Some games we may be on equal ability. Some games we're not going to be on equal ability.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there's a few games that I'm going to leave you in the dust, and there's a larger number of games where I'm going to be watching you going, "What the hell are you doing? I can't do that crap." So I know.
Oh yeah, I'm a
each have
painfully
our
average
niche.
gamer. Yeah.
Yeah, we each have our niche. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Again, it would be fun to do something like to do a game that we both have some at least knowledge of, like Injustice is a fighting game. Because like the few characters I'm good at with Injustice, I would probably be able to beat you. The few characters you're good at, you'd be able to beat me. And then the others, it would just be a toss up as to who would win. So it'd be good and evenly matched. There's not one of the two of us that's just like the aggro gamer in that. I know if I'm going to play Halo with you, I'm probably going to hand it to you in Halo.
You'll definitely hand it to me in Halo. I'm fucking terrible at first-person shooters, especially with the controller in my hand.
If there was a multiplayer of any Legend of Zelda game, you'd beat me because I don't care about those games. But I'm being honest here.
No, I get it. I get it.
Every few years, I sit down and try to play Ocarina of Time again because that's supposed to be the best one ever. And every time it's just like, this is boring. I can't do this anymore. And I played it even across multiple consoles, and it still bores the crap out of me.
Oh yeah, no, I honestly, like, Ocarina of Time is very far from one of my favorite games in the Zelda franchise. It misses out on a lot. Like, it's groundbreaking in the fact that it brought Zelda to 3D, but for the most part, like, that's about it. It is the central piece of the puzzle when it comes down to the universe. It's like the core, technically speaking, story-wise, but dude, top-down Zelda's all day long. I will say that Breath of the Wild is literally probably my current favorite. It really is, in that degree.
And I've been tempted to give that one a chance just to see.
Oh, it definitely is not Ocarina, and it is very immersive and very fun all the time.
Like I said, I've thought about giving that one a chance.
Yeah,
but yeah, what it comes down to though is gaming is the is the section of your life. It occupies the section of your life that movies occupy for me.
Understood.
And
Understood. That makes sense.
And that's why this would affect. Again, I am feeling the same type of an effect, but not to the degree and the level that you are. But that's because you spent more time with a controller in your hand than I have. Just like I spent more time with my ass sitting in front of a movie, watching a movie over and over again.
Right. Completely understood. Exactly.
And the nuance and the subtlety are going to be more noticeable from you, and the issue is going to be more noticeable from you because, like you say, it's so hardwired into you.
Yeah,
and
it's just down to the familiarity of the pattern. You know what I mean? Like that's all it is for me. But I did want to continue because I developed a solution for myself. I had to.
What was the solution?
Well, I am familiar with a different type of game controller. I don't know how far you'll consider this to be particularly a cop-out, because the problem is it's getting in the way of me having fun. And as many people as praise this game and the way that it works, and I do like the story, and I love the voice acting, the dialogue, the graphics, the game is absolutely gorgeous, but it just doesn't have that same effect to me because I'm having issues with the controls. So I'm very familiar with a different controller. This includes face buttons with shapes on them, like square, triangle, X, and circle, or cross and circle. It's technically a cross button.
So you're using a PlayStation controller?
I am playing it on PS4 instead.
Oh, okay.
So the game came out also on PS4, and there's a multitude, apparently, of praises that people sing for the PlayStation 4 version over the Xbox One version. They state that the PlayStation 4 version looks better. I can say that it looks... There's a different clarity to it, which is nice. But here's the deal. I know where the square button is. So when it says hit square to do this, I know how to do that now. And it allows me to get back into the game. And I'm telling you right now, I'm enjoying the living hell out of it.
Well, because and that does make sense because the PlayStation has had the buttons located in the same exact spot for because triangle's on top, X is to the left, circle is to the right, and square's down.
Circle's to the right. No, square is to the left, triangle is top, X is bottom, and circle is right. Did you know that those actually have corresponding like those are actual function buttons meant for something specific originally when the PlayStation came out?
No, I didn't, but that doesn't surprise me.
X meant no, circle meant yes. The square is a menu button, I believe, and the triangle, I think, I can't remember what the triangle's for, but I'll have to get back to you on that.
X always means yes in that. Circle always means no.
They flipped them. Originally, actually, in Japan, a lot of the controls in Japan, the circle button is the yes button, and the X button is the no button. It's the cancel button. So, in Japan,
when you're playing PlayStation stuff, you almost always do the circle to cancel something.
Yes, that's true. You almost always do, but that has to do with westernized control schemes, because the X button or the bottom button, like the bottom button in most situations, is the OK button. If you notice, on Switch, it's flipped. The A button is the OK button, and the B button is the cancel button. Where's the B button? On the bottom. The A is on the right. So Sony had actually modeled their stuff based on.
This is the difference between a Japanese mindset for a yes and no and a
westernized,
westernized. Okay,
yes. They flip the control scheme for that kind of stuff.
Because for me, and it would make sense for me. Yes should be a part of the vertical axis, and no should be a part of the horizontal axis.
Oh, that makes sense.
And the reason for that being, when we use our body language for yes, we move our head in a vertical way. When we do it for no, we move our head horizontally.
That makes a lot of sense. I never thought about that.
For no to be horizontal and yes to be vertical. So.
You know what? I bet you that's why they probably thought of it on a westernized setup.
Psychologically, it would make more sense.
Yeah. So at least I can tell you that I've logged in a good few hours on the first one. When I mean a good few hours, I'm not as deep into the game as I would be on the Xbox version right now, but I am having a good time with it. and it's a lot easier for me to do, not because I've played these sections before, because I have, but
actually, you know it might be fun.
What?
Well, you're playing it through, and like you say, you're having fun. You're being able to enjoy it.
Yeah.
You're being able to really immerse into the gameplay because you don't have the basically the language interface problem, which is what you're having. You're having a language interface problem.
Yeah.
It might be fun to play this through this way, and then go back and do a challenge of replaying it through again on the Xbox.
Like hard mode.
Well, no, just
hard
to
mode
try
is
to
the buttons that you don't know.
basically, yeah. Just try to do it again and see if your previous experience helped out.
Oh my god! Imagine that brain teaser, man. That is a mind. That is quite the mind puzzle.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think that's. I wouldn't call that a cop out. I would call that a way to overcome the situation. You found an issue with your processing of the buttons because of the too close connection between those buttons and what you're previously used to with the world of Nintendo.
Yeah.
So I mean, it makes sense to me. Find the way that you have the ability to do it.
No, thank you.
Sweet.
Yeah. So now I'm having fun with it, and I'm feeling a lot more. It's going to be a lot easier to get into the more immersive parts of the game. So I'm going to have a good time.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So that was your technological thing that you had to overcome this week.
Yes, I had to learn how to play a video game again.
And I had to learn that my fridge was going to yell at me and treat me like its child. I think you had the better week than me. I mean, just saying.
Dude, if my fridge was yelling at me, I would probably lose my mind. So I feel your I would say I feel your pain, but I've never had my fridge yell at me. So
especially in beeps.
Although I do deal with fridge nipples.
Yes, you have the fridge nipple. I have the yelling fridge. Which one's worse? At least your nipple gives sustenance. The yelling just pisses me off. It's just beeping at me. Like, are you trying to back up? No, you're yelling at me because I left your door open.
Are you trying to back up?
It kind of does sound like
the fridge is backing up again.
Thing. Yeah.
That's great.
It's where's it moving to? It can only go back so far. I can't back up any further. Anyway,
all right,
Mike.
Yes.
Where are people listening to us talk about our week of technical difficulties?
Yeah. Let's see. You could be listening to us on our website, thexennialchronicles.com. You could be listening to us upon in a multitude of podcast platforms like Spotify and TuneIn and Google and Apple and there was another one. I don't know. One of those, but you definitely should, if you have not been. You should be going to our YouTube page and listening to our podcast there, because when we don't have a podcast, we have videos. We put videos out, and they're fun, and they're goofy.
Fun. They're funny.
And they're funny, and we like doing that kind of stuff. As a matter of fact...
And they have coffee in them.
Yes.
Often.
Yes, they do. Quite a bit of coffee.
Yes.
But as a matter of fact, you also can do something while you're there. So you should go find the Xennial Chronicles on YouTube, and you should go subscribe to our YouTube page, especially if you're listening to this on a video. And there's also a little button that's right next to the subscribe button, possibly. And James, I think it's best if you let them know what to do with that.
I mean, it's a button. What do you do with buttons?
I mean,
I will say this. Buttons aren't toys.
They are not toys.
Buttons aren't toys.
Mm-mm.
But in this instance, you want to click the bell.
Yes, you do. Please click the bell so that you get notified when we put a new podcast or a new video out on that page. And I believe that is my spiel. Is that not correct?
Yes. While you're there and you're clicking the bell, click the bell. Like, you only really need to click it once, even if you want to click it multiple times.
Yeah, don't keep clicking it again, because then it'll unclick you. So you don't want to do that.
There's other things that you can click multiple times. You
yes.
Anyway,
the bell you should click to where it's on and then leave it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, while you're there, and you're checking out the Xennial Chronicles, also you're on YouTube already. Look at some cat videos, because who doesn't like to look at cat videos?
Yeah.
Look at people doing acoustic versions of songs that are not normally acoustic, because that's always fun.
Oh yeah.
Fail compilations. Speaking of, while you're looking at fail compilations, you can check out the thing we've been talking about, the second half of this podcast. Mike and his wife doing Chronosode Games.
Yes.
This is, of course, the YouTube page where he does the video games. But now, apparently, he might actually be good at one of the games because he can finally figure out the frickin' buttons. By the way, what was your excuse playing the Legend of Zelda games and sucking at those?
Oh, my God.
Just
dude, Skyward
curious.
Sword? Oh, that one for me was the fact that that's the only game that doesn't actually have you use buttons to swing the damn sword. You have to tilt the controller and swing it around. So I could have thrown that shit through a window or my television. It would have been terrible.
Well, anyway, check that
I've got
out.
all the excuses, man.
Of course you do. Check that out. Subscribe to that. Click the bell so you can get your notifications. And also, Mike does one other YouTube page called Ruling Note Music. This is where he talks about music history stuff, gear stuff, recording stuff, just music stuff in general. I'm glad he has this page because when it comes time for me to want to buy new music gear or to record anything, he's the guy that I can go to. It's great to have a friend like that. But since you don't have him as a friend, or maybe you do, we don't have a lot of people listening to this. So if you don't have him as a friend and you're listening to this, go and subscribe to Ruling Note Music, because then he can kind of be your YouTube friend. You can listen to him talk on here, and then you can listen to him give you some music advice, just in case you need a friend like that gives you some music advice. So check all those out while you're on YouTube. And again, if you can get your friends, your family to listen to us, I know we're a little weird, especially me, but that's all right. Everybody needs a little bit of weird now.
Just a little.
So thank you all for listening, and we'll be back again next week.
Y'all have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in, friends. The journey continues next week.